Welcome AP people. This is Unit 8, 8.6. We're almost through with Unit 8, newly independent states. So while the Cold War is heating up, you have the other major historical development, which is decolonization and the drama that unfolds, the historical drama with these newly independent states. Let's take a look. So by the end of this lesson, in blue, you're going to understand how Israel and Pakistan, they were created by redrawing political boundaries. And you're going to understand how to use evidence to support a claim. And once again, just like yesterday, you're going to understand how to reveal complexity by corroborating evidence and conflicting points of view. Huge clue to look for in the documents now, right? Right. So our thematic focus, once again, government. The learning objective, we're going to explain how political changes in the period from 1900 to the present led to territorial, demographic, and nationalist developments. Okay, now let's zoom in. More specifically, the historical development, well, the redrawing of political boundaries after the withdrawal of former colonial authorities, it led to the creation of new states and a lot of drama internally with those new states. The states created by redrawing the political boundaries, what are we talking about? Israel, we're going to talk about Pakistan, and also what occurred in Cambodia. All right. So the redrawing of political boundaries, in some cases, it led to conflict as well as population displacement or resettlements, movements of mass amount of people, including those related to the partition of India and the creation of the state of Israel. I'll introduce the drama in Israel, and then today we're going to focus on the partition of India. Let's take a look at Israel. So Jews occupied Palestine during the Roman Empire, 2,000 years ago, but they were forced to leave and create diasporic communities, which means they spread out all over the world, primarily Europe, but all over the world as well, right? So during World War I, Zionism, know that term, a movement to return Jews to Palestine, it began to gain momentum, right? With the Balfour Declaration of 1917 at the end of World War I, toward the end, it directly stated that Jewish population should be given a homeland in Palestine. So then by the end of World War II and all the horrors of the Holocaust that Jews endured, the United Nations, the member countries, they created two Palestines in 1948, one for Jews and one for Muslims, who were already living in Palestine and were forced to move off their land. And that created major violence-based conflict, the Gaza Strip, and there's a huge wall there today to try to stop the violence from continuing. So the establishment of Israel in 1948, it created anger and resentment in Palestine and other nearby Arab countries. These religious tensions led to wars and terrorism. You have Western countries that support Israel because of their capitalistic government, right? They represent capitalism. And then you have Muslim countries that support Palestine because they're Arab Muslims. So two examples of military conflicts that occurred were the Arab-Israeli War of 1948 and the Six-Day War of 1967, which both resulted in Israel with much stronger armies taking over more territory. And there's still heated violence-based conflict today over this, connected to much larger superpower countries, all right? Let's take a look at the partition of India. Here is our focus for today. So this is our second example. The partition of India is the separation of India, August 14th, 1947, and the day after, into the states of the Dominion of Pakistan and the Union of India. All right. So India was separated on the day of gaining independence from British. The day the British agreed to leave, the leaders of India agreed to separate it. Tensions between Hindus and Muslims living in the country. All right. Very important to focus on that today. So India gained independence after 350 years of British presence in the country. Think about that. The people and their mothers and fathers and grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, they all endured control of foreign authority for so many years. Finally, they get their freedom. How are we going to run this country? How are we going to reorganize this country? A lot of internal political drama. Okay, here's your basic maps of the partition. Look at the left, 1945, that's what British India looks like. Look on the right, in 1971, you have the division in which Pakistan is formed, and on the eastern side of India, Bangladesh is formed, which they called West Pakistan, through the Bangladesh Liberation War. That's how it was split up. All right, so here's the big movement in India. You have nationalism surfaces in India by the end of World War II, and by the end of World War I, nationalism started in India. They wanted the British out. So by the end of World War II, the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League form. All right. So the leader, Jawaharlal Nehru of the Indian National Congress, and the Muslim League is Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And here's your two separations here. In 1885, the Indian national government formed. They comprised mainly of Hindus. They wanted to break free from British rule. That was the Indian National Congress. Majority Hindus, and they wanted the British out. The Muslim League was minority Muslim, okay? They were a secondary nationalist group, which focused on specific concerns for the Muslim minority living in India, especially with the British gone, and Hindus, as the majority in the government, they feared that the Muslim minority would suffer and not get benefits, all right? So not only were Indians struggling to break away from British rule, but they were also struggling internally due to tensions between Hindus and Muslims. Keep that in mind. The formation of the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League defined a fine line between the two major religions and their views, okay? The first to propose separate states was a writer and philosopher, Allama Iqbal, in 1930. And this conversation really heated up about separating the country because the causes were religious conflict. Okay, so not only were Muslims pushing for separation, so were Hindus. Many Hindus despise the Muslims. Why? Think about this in our past AP history units. Due to the Muslims formerly ruling India for 300 years under the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire was minority Muslims ruling over majority Hindus for 300 years. So Hindu organizations such as the Hindu Mahasabha pushed for the division of the country and insisted in the chasm between Muslims and Hindus. It was too great. It was in need of separate states. Okay? So India finally gains independence after World War II due to Gandhi's nonviolent civil disobedience campaign, and religious tension between Hindus and Muslims erupts into violence. Gandhi wanted a united India where Hindus and Muslims could practice their religion freely, but Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the Muslim League sought to partition India and create a separate Muslim nation. The causes of all this was religious tension, right? So Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Lord Mountbatten, representative of Great Britain, Pandit Nehru held a meeting to partition the country into India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. The immediate result of all this was the mass movement and migration of millions of people gathering according to the geographic location of their new culture and religion. And there was a lot of ethnic violence that led to massacres. Okay? So we're going to look at documents that relate to all this. The documents are mostly straightforward. You're going to try to reveal complexity, just as we did the other day. Prompt: to what extent did political forces led to territorial, demographic, and nationalist developments in the period from 1945 to the present? 15 minutes. You're going to go over 2 documents, create a thesis from those 2 documents, claim and reasoning. And you will be able to do that. Try to reveal complexity. Ready? Go. This is document B. We just went over it, right? So I'm going to go over it one more time with you. The subject: while in prison, Nehru writes about the limitations of political division due to religious tensions. Why does he do it? To persuade the reader of the negative consequences of political division of the country based on religious tensions, right? And it's cause and effect because the prompts had led to. And then you group all the similar causes and effects, right? because the documents are similar. Religious causes. When you look at the second document, it's all religious cause. So when you compare them, economic doesn't really match. This emphasizes religion. The second emphasizes religion. It's a match. They're both religious causes. What is this document's limitation? Nehru is an upper-class Hindu. He can't provide the perspective of the Muslim experience in India, especially the Muslim minority experience. So this is religious, the strongest force. It's cultural religion. Now you look at the second one. This is Muhammad Ali Jinnah, speaks at the Muslim League's annual meeting in 1940 regarding the partition of India, based on cultural or religious purposes. This is all religious here. So why does he say it? To persuade Muslim Indians to support India's partition based on religious affiliation. It's cause and effect. It's said led to similarities and differences between causes. These are two similar, the forces are both religion, which makes it similar. They're similar causes. What's the limitation here? Once again, look at this. Jinnah, he's an upper-class minority Muslim Indian. He can't provide the common point of view on Indian partition based on the majority Hindu Indian. He's minority Muslim, has no idea what it's like to walk in the shoes of a majority Hindu in the country. So once again, you see, he talks all about religion here. That is the strongest driving force. It's cultural. It's religion. So now, when you put it together, take a look at this. Although external political forces, the British, although external political forces played a role in Indian national movement for independence, it was internal religious tensions that served as the strongest force that sparked territorial, demographic, and secondary national developments in India during the period 1945 to the present. Okay, so political forces were a lesser extent. Religious tensions was the greatest force to the greatest extent that sparked all the territorial change, drawing of political boundaries, the demographic change, the secondary national developments like the Muslim League and that movement. The reason for this is because documents A and B, they reveal underlying religious tensions between Hindus and Muslims, which heavily influenced political diplomacy during the decision to partition India. You see that? Compare this to your thesis now. So new states like Pakistan and Israel, they were created by redrawing political boundaries. Look, both were drawn on religious lines, okay? The political boundaries were redrawn for religious reasons. The partition of British India in 1947 created a new Muslim state of Pakistan, a predominantly Hindu state of India. The immediate result of that drawing of the new geographic boundaries was religious and ethnic violence that led to mass migrations and massacre. In Israel, Zionism led to the establishment of Israel in 1948, which created a homeland for the world's Jewish population. And the results of the new geographic boundaries were wars between Jews and Arabs, Arab Muslims, and terrorism that continues even today. What is the most important thing you're supposed to know? Look at complexity on the bottom, how you reveal it. Although Nehru and Jinnah's perspectives in documents A and B conflict, the underlying force that drove India's partition corroborates in those documents. It matches, which was cultural, religious tension. You mention that in your DBQ and it reveals complexity to get the complexity point. I really hope that helps.